Напевно, ще якісь муніципальні вибори також проводяться багато. Багато різних прізвищ.
Take the next left onto NP's Vanderbilt Park Road, then you'll arrive at your destination.
Так, це тут він...
You have arrived.
Слухайте, а ну я би зупинився, я би... Ну ладно.
Ми не розуміємо високого мистецтва.
Ти подивишся.
Перший раз бачу знак, коли пише, що дрони заборонені. Так завжди приходиться питатися.
Що заборонено?
Дронами не можна літати.
Секулярний інститут.
Дивись, який Григорій.
Це одна людина тут жила, уявляєте?
Ну, уявляєте. Як цей, як
Погано він
Лозова.
тут жив.
Як Янукович, так?
Це певно покрутіше.
Я не бачу, такий Григорій задоволений вже.
Бо тут ближче то, що хочеться. Є.
А що це, якщо це не
Що
так?
це? Гарне дерево, можна з жовтим.
Ви бачите, так. А що ти хочеш? Ти хочеш порядки робити, ти хочеш порядки робити, тільки-тільки.
Як я сказав, я хотів сказати, що як ти прийдеш,
Дивись, які гарні дерева.
Дуже гарно, дуже гарно. Гарно прогулятися.
Все, говориться, ми вже приїхали.
А що ти хочеш? Ти хочеш? Так. Включай, роби порядки. Кутю. Григорій? Ну, такий потихай, щось потихай. Такий носки гарний у Григорія.
Ой, який запах, який теплий. Як пахне.
Ні.
Yeah, he's famous in this museum, but there is a
Famous, так?
Бачиш?
Бачу.
He died in 1885.
Угу.
He was born in 1820.
Everybody gets a ticket, the kids don't pay for them. That is the next bell.
Це не я. Це подивись.
Я розпустила щоб його не притискало так. І він може просто сісти, але його все рівно тримає. Він не...
Вже йдемо до дерева.
Так.
О, дивіться, яка на таку.
Ми йдемо всі туди зараз. Дивіться, так. Давай.
rich, that's right. They'd be happy to hear us say that because the overriding reason why they build a house like this is so that everybody knows that they're rich. So that's simple. So mission accomplished. Pretty good. The source of all this money is Frederick Vanderbilt's grandfather. His name is Cornelius Vanderbilt. He's born down in Staten Island in 1794 during the days of George Washington. His dad is another Cornelius, actually. Cornelius Sr. is a really prosperous farmer down there in Staten Island. He's a descendant of the old Dutch agriculturists, I guess you would call them, who came here in the 1600s. They were commercial farmers. They're not subsistence farmers. They didn't come here to raise, they have little farms and raise food for their families and so forth. They came here to farm vast tracts of land that they could raise crops and market. And that's what Cornelius Sr. is doing. He realizes that being on an island there on Staten Island poses a problem for him because he's obviously got to get his crops to market, and the closest market of any size would be New York City. So he invests in a boat called the Prairie Auger. It's a two-masted sailing boat, small one. And with that, he's able to carry his crops across New York Harbor to New York City itself. And of course, being a smart businessman, he realizes that he can charge his neighbors for carrying their crops as well. So Cornelius's dad is actually sort of carrying these two businesses, and Cornelius, not surprising that he will end up eventually in the shipping business. Cornelius Vanderbilt, the one we're concerned with, Cornelius Jr., I guess we could call him right now, turned out to be a very smart business person. And perhaps inherited that because obviously he had his dad, who's a very successful entrepreneur down there with two businesses. His mom was also someone who made money independently. She sold lace that she made, she sold vegetables that she grew, and eventually went into the business of lending money. And she was an extremely hard-nosed person, financially speaking. There's a great story. Made me actually sit up and take notice when reading, but a little story about how she loaned money to a young lady to help her and her husband. They were in danger of losing their farm. They needed to mortgage the farm and fell behind in their payments. So Mrs. Vanderbilt foreclosed on that. And the young lady in question was actually her daughter-in-law. So obviously she meant business when it came to the bottom line there. So Cornelius, having grown up in that environment, he quit school when he was 12 years old. Some biographers say that he probably only had a number of months of education in his lifetime. But anyway, he quit school at the age of 12 and went to work for his father on the farm. Over time, as he worked for his father began to entrust him with some of the duties involved with the shipping business. And by the time he's 16, Cornelius is itching to be on his own. So he borrowed money from his mother, bought himself his own Prairie Auger, and set himself up with a single boat shipping business going back and forth between Staten Island and New York City. Really successful fairly quickly, and Cornelius even began to invest in other young men like himself. He's loaning them money and basically owning an interest in several of these boats that were plying the waters of New York Harbor. And in doing so, the dockhands down there began to tease him about being the sort of admiral of this little fleet of boats, and they nicknamed him the Commodore. It was a nickname which stuck with him throughout his life. Cornelius is a very interesting guy. We could spend a long time talking about him, but we're going to skip ahead a little bit and just say by the 1850s, Cornelius has parlayed that single boat crossing the New York Harbor into a shipping empire which reaches Europe and around the tip South America to California. By the late 1850s, Cornelius Vanderbilt has more money than you would find in the United States Treasury. He owns one of every $20 bills in circulation, and that means that even today, considering Bill Gates, Elon Musk, people like that, Cornelius Vanderbilt is still number 2 in American history when you look at these rich folks in terms of the proportion of the American economy that he controlled. So he's an extremely important person in American history.
Who's number 1?
Hey, pardon?
Number 1.
Number 1, I'm not entirely sure, as a matter of fact. It goes back between Musk and Bill Gates, and there's 3 or 4 other guys, I guess. Did you get on isn't romantic at heart, so I would really love to be able to tell you that as you look around the house, the furnishings were picked out specifically by Frederick and Louise. Like say, oh, this beautiful French horizontal clock. All right, wouldn't it be lovely to think that Frederick and Louise are strolling hand in hand through the streets of Paris, ducking in little antique stores here and there, and Louise finds this clock, and oh, Frederick, that would be perfect for the table, and we look at it here, let's buy it. All right, we'd love to say that, but that would be a complete falsehood altogether. If you're looking at an item in this house and wondering why it's here, gee, I wonder if Frederick and Louise like this or whatever. No, things are here. Obviously, Frederick and Louise could have rejected anything they wanted to, but things are here by and large because Stanford White put them here. All right, and Stanford White is in the business of catering to folks like the Vanderbilts. He is a designer. He's in the business of procuring antiques, things like that. He goes to Europe on a regular basis. He finds families that have fallen on hard times and are having basically fire sales from their castles and manors, buying up stuff like this wholesale and brings it back to the United States, and it sits in his warehouses in New York and Long Island. So when he gets a contract from somebody like the Vanderbilts, all right, the mission that he gets from these families is always the same. Make it look like our family fortune has a long history. Make it look like we have antecedents in Europe or some connection, with European fortunes of old. All right, and so Stanford White goes to the warehouse and picks up stuff to do that. That's it. He's not running everything by the Vanderbilts. As I said, they don't like something. They say, Charles, get that out of here. Or, I don't like that at all, Stanford, get it out of here, and it will go. But basically, they are not personally connected with things in the house. Look up over the fireplace. All right, does anybody remember who the source of all this money was? Cornelius Vanderbilt. Okay. Always heard of reports. The Commodore was up there. You would think, but no, he's not. Why not? Why wouldn't you put your grandfather's picture up there if he was the one who gave you all this? Well, you don't want to remind people that your family fortune only has a 2-generation history. All right. You also don't want to remind them that this fortune came from, some young guy or some sweaty teenager pulling a boat back and forth across New York Harbor. All right. Instead, we put up there, some of you may recognize this. This is the De Medici family banner. All right, the De Medici, the merchant kings of the Renaissance in Italy. All right, so we have that up there to make some sort of unconscious assumption that we're somehow associated with them or with this tradition or something like that. And basically, these folks are making themselves out to be royalty, okay, when they're not. All right, so as you look around the house here, you're basically walking around a movie set. The name of the movie is We Have a Lot of Money, we will always have a lot of money, and we always have had a lot of money. They're called cassons. Basically, it's kind of hostess.
Okay. Okay, that makes more sense. They look like sarcophaguses.
Yeah, they do. First started in the 1960s that right here on cover. But yeah, there's a song, sort of walking something that you don't like it. Yes, everybody listen to me for 1 second, because nobody remembers this, but then that is the south end of the floor. You'll find, I guess they call them the primary bedroom. Two bedrooms on this floor. This is painfully obvious over here. In elementary school, again, everybody knows exactly where you're going. I'm sure you want some questions. Right? The stairwell involves 42. Right. I asked you earlier not to touch anything in the house, but the handrail on the stairwell is placed regularly.
Even though the banister looks like they got you. Oh, okay.
Folks, please be careful not to lean on the balustrade in front of you there. Thank you.
This is why.
This will certainly change. This will certainly change. This is the original artwork?
Yes, it is. And given all the antiques in the house, it's surprising they don't have older things actually done. In 70s, for Vanderbilt, so we didn't.
Ти спойна, прикинь.
Коли підходити.
Fundraiser 4 or 5 years ago, they opened it up. I'm sure they
I'm gonna go see if. Якраз коли ми йшли до машини, ми думали, ми будемо.
Хтось іде ззаді. пікає там.
Ну.
Та до тебе голова не болить? Маркус, тебе голова не болить?
Маркуся є причина.
Він тут подрапав. Ти бачив?
Де був?
Ось тут подрапав.
Сповзав.
Голова. Ой, який песик, нічого собі, який песик.